Yeah, hello, good evening, and thank you for joining the webinar. My name is Wolfgang Oestreich, and I'm a member of ForeFlight's European Pilot Support Team. So thank you for joining the next webinar in our series. Today we are covering ForeFlight for IFR pilots. And if you have questions regarding the subscription plans or how to use an app, please look to the other recorded webinars on our webpage. Today we will cover how you can do the pre-planning of an IFR flight, which data and documents you can use, how the IFR flight planning works in some examples, what weather information you can get in ForeFlight, in ForeFlight planning and in-flight, and we will cover some parts of performance planning. Before we begin, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. You can ask questions via the GoToWebinar message panel on the right. You can click the section which looks like a question mark to expand that section, and you can ask your questions that way. We will respond as many of those questions as we can directly during the presentation, and we will also respond to many others in the Q&A portion of that webinar. If your question isn't answered during the session, please send an email to team@foreflight.com and we will answer the question that way. Now let's get started. So I think most of you know who ForeFlight is. ForeFlight was founded 14 years ago in Houston and Austin, Texas, and provided in 2008 the first aviation app in the new Apple App Store. From our offices in Austin and Houston in Texas, Portland, Maine, and Odense in Denmark, besides the ForeFlight mobile app and the web planning tool, we provide the ForeFlight Sentry mobile ADS-B receiver, which is now also available for sale in Europe, and the ForeFlight military flight bag or business products like the ForeFlight Dispatch or CTOPS for commercial operations of single-engine turboprop aircraft in IMC and by night. The ForeFlight app provides also Eurocontrol valid route generation and flight plan filing for VFR and IFR flights via our Danish office. Good news is regarding the VFR flights, since this month we are also now able to provide VFR flight plan filing in the Netherlands. Yay! More than half of our nearly 300 employees are pilots, flight instructors, and examiners by themselves and influence the development of our products from their own experience. Now let's start with our partnership. So as you know, ForeFlight is a Boeing company as well as a Jeppesen, and so we have a pretty good integration of Jeppesen products into the ForeFlight mobile app. In the ForeFlight mobile app, you can tap the More button on the lower right on the screen, open the sidebar menu and tap the Jeppesen's section. And as you can see here on that screen, you can add a Jeppesen account and install a coverage additional to Jeppesen subscription purchased through ForeFlight. So that means if you have an existing Jeppesen account from your aircraft Jeppesen MFD subscription plan, you can import Jeppesen IFR plates, for example, from that plan and purchase Jeppesen VFR approach plates via the ForeFlight web store. so that you can mix and match different plans to meet your specific needs. That provides you much more flexibility than before. Next important step before starting IFR planning is the aircraft setup. Also open the sidebar menu, tap the aircraft section, and here for that presentation I have prepared some models. So on the top of the screen you can see a Citation Mustang. For the Citation Mustang and several other models, we have introduced runway analyzers so that you can now create a runway analysis and takeoff and landing performance analysis as requested by the FAA or by EASA. I will show you later how that works. So it's important to know that runway analyzers for jets is an optional add-on to the ForeFlight Performance Plus subscription plan when the takeoff landing performance for piston and selected turboprop aircraft is included into the Performance Plus plan. When creating Eurocontrol valid routes, it's important that your aircraft has a proper filing setting. So please check if the configuration in the filing part of your aircraft setup, the ICAO equipment, ICAO surveillance, and performance-based navigation part are meeting the aircraft avionics and the request or the required settings to generate a specific route. Okay, let's go to flights. So when you do the VFR flight planning, mostly on the map, you will figure out that the flights form is the best way to create IFR flight plans. With a new plan, you can select estimated time of departure or estimated time of arrival, and then we are calculating backwards your departure time. Here we start simple with selecting departure time, the departure airport. And so the examples I've used in that webinar are coming from customer requests. So if you run in trouble with creating a proper route, or if you are challenged by Eurocontrol constraints, don't hesitate to write an email to team@foreflight.com, and we are happy to help you. So that is a flight from Ibiza to an VFR airport in Germany, in Bavaria. We select for that flight the jet prop, turboprop aircraft. And the alternate advisor is calculating based on the runway and the weather information suggestions for alternates. Of course, if you have a preferred alternate airport, you can put that ICAO code into the field where you can read airport code. Here, in that example, I select Schwäbisch Hall, Echo Delta, Tango Yankee as alternate airport. We scroll down on the screen, and below the small map, you can see the current weather en route. and we tap on the route sign to open the route advisor. The route advisor is calculating and recommended Eurocontrol valid route for your aircraft. But sometimes you can see there are some routes looking very strange, and so you can manipulate the route advisor by tapping on the route constraints in the top of the pop-up window. So the simplest route constraints are setting a maximum or minimum altitude for that flight, and that in that case the route advisor is searching for a valid route in the band you have selected here. Then you can set your flight rules, and when changing to Zulu or Yankee flight plans, so IFR plans with a VFR part, you have also the option to select your preferred IFR pickup and cancel waypoint. So the route advisor is usually searching for the closest IFR pickup point, and for IFR cancellation, IFR cancel waypoint, which is close to your VFR destination, but in some cases you have to set your own pickup point. So there are some airports having preferred departure procedures for IFR flights. You have to go via a specific IFR pickup point, and so you can put in that waypoint here to get the proper route. More options are the possibility to include or avoid waypoints for the route generation. So we will see a little bit later how that works. And you can also avoid FIRs. So if you know that in some parts of Europe, ATC is on strike or provides delays en route, you can here select FIRs you want to exclude from the route generation. And as you can see on top, you see the overflown FIRs en route. So you can select it here, these first, but you can also search for other IFRs you want to exclude from route generation. So here, the route advisor have found a nice route for that specific flight in flight level 240. We select that route and we set the initial altitude to flight level 240. So the performance is immediately calculated for that flight, and we will continue with that specific flight a little bit later. So I've talked a little bit about the including and excluding IFR waypoints during the route generation, and to show how you can manipulate route generation by yourself, I used an example with flying single engine piston aircraft, Beech Bonanza, from Graz in Austria to Bolzano in Italy, with Innsbruck as an alternate, and the route you will get per default by the route advisor is that route. So you see it's pretty nice sightseeing tour south of the Alps and looking a little bit to Venice down before approaching Bolzano. But you can also see in the weather radar that it's exactly the route you won't fly on that specific day. So how can we change that route? So I open, first I go to the airport page in the ForeFlight mobile app, and I check the arrivals for Bolzano. And here you can see there is an IFR waypoint exactly over Bolzano, that is Naxaf. So we keep that in mind. And when you check the map page and look for the IFR airways, you can see there is an IFR airway between Naxaf and Detzar. That is an IFR waypoint on the border to Austria, and the airway is Mike 984. And so the minimum en route altitude for that airway is 15,000 feet. So the aircraft has to be capable to fly that altitude. So the Beach Bonanza is a pretty nice aircraft that is able to fly that flight level. And so Detzar is the waypoint we will select. So as you may know, in Austria, like in other countries in Europe, we have already implemented the free route airspace. That means you can more or less fly directly between an entry and an exit waypoint across the whole country. Unfortunately, the free route airspace is not yet enabled in all European countries, and the challenge comes when connecting free route airspace to countries without a free route airspace. So what are we doing? When opening the constraints window, I put in the two waypoints I have selected as include waypoints, and that is the route we get created by the route advisor. So we start in flight level 140 and have a step up climb at Detzar to flight level 150. Flying the airway Mike 984 until Naxaf, and then we have an arrival procedure. So the arrival procedure is more or less doubling the whole distance for that flight. But we have a route, and that route is Eurocontrol valid. So what we can do now, of course, we can plan, file, and fly that route. Finally, if the weather is okay over Bolzano, you can change also that flight into an Yankee flight plan, starting with an IFR part and closing with an VFR approach to Bolzano. So I tap on the route string, and now I can manually changing the route string. I select the part after waypoint Naxaf and replace that part with a VFR section. So, okay, now we have an Yankee flight plan with IFR part until Naxaf, and you can cancel directly over Bolzano the IFR and fly in visual approach to Bolzano. That's how you can manipulate the route. So why is it required? So every day, several thousand route constraints are coming into the Eurocontrol system. So sometimes it's necessary to move a flight for 1 or 2 hours when a specific constraint en route is expired, and then immediately you get a much better route than before. So playing with departure times, changing altitudes, or like in that specific case, manually editing the route is essential, unfortunately, for IFR flying in Europe. So in case you are not successful with everything you have tried, please, I say it again, please drop an email to team@foreflight.com. Our FileOps team is happy to help you. Okay, let's go back to our pretty nice jet prop aircraft. What we are doing, we are changing the number of persons on board. Yeah, to heavy persons, 200 pounds, and we get immediately an error, and the error says us, okay, the max ramp rate is exceeded by 27 pounds. What can we do? We go up to the aircraft and we simply change the performance profile. And we change the performance profile from max cruise torque into best range cruise. And the error disappears. When checking the weights for that flight, we see, oh, we have now enough weight available to add some baggage. Okay. We are ready to brief for the flight. On the top of the screen, you can open the nav log. That here is default, the standard nav log you get in ForeFlight. As a Performance Plus customer, you can also change into the international nav log. The international nav log provides a more detailed summary of your fuel calculation and weight checks. On top of the screen, you have also more space for making notes, writing down your times, clearances, remarks, en route. You have the alternate routing, and you have information, entry and exit times for your flight overflown flight information regions, and you have also airport information for departure, destination, alternate airport, including the frequencies, if available, whether is not available for that VFR destination. So, but you have it for your departure and alternate airport. And you have the airport diagrams, and as a summary, the ICAO flight plan document as last part of the nav log. With Send To, you can now save that that document to the flight's files. That feature is also available for Performance Plus plans. Open the briefing package. The briefing package shows you the vertical cross-section chart. We see moderate up to severe icing conditions en route, but below our planned levels. You see some turbulence. You can see the wind and temperature en route. And you can see the same information in the top view. The Sigma chart, meters, and TAFs for your airports, SIGMETs, AirMets, and NOTAMs, of course. Also, the briefing package can be saved to the flight files. Now let's do the takeoff performance calculation. From the terminal area forecast, automatically the runway is pre-selected. If you don't have a valid wind information in the terminal area forecast, you can select your takeoff runway by yourself. And of course, you can also change it manually by yourself. You can also adjust wind and weather information if you have different numbers than reported by the terminal area forecast. The takeoff weight is taken from the flight plan calculation. You can now set the takeoff flaps. You can add a safety distance factor depending on your personal requirements, if you are flying privately, or if you are flying with a business aircraft, you can also put in the safety distance factors required or written down in the AOC. You can also select an aircraft for the emergency return, and you get the speed. So do the same for the destination runway. Here the runway 29er is selected. You can also adjust the temperature information. You have the landing weight also, of course, under consideration of the fuel required for the flight. You can also set your own safety distance factor, and you get your landing performance. Same, of course, for your alternate runway. Then you can open the proceed to file pop-up window, and with the send to button, you can now generate an ICAO form and save it also to the flight files. So some countries still required to carry an ICAO form. Most of the stuff is done electronically today. So if everything is fine, you can file the flight plan, and the flight plan is then in the system. The proceed to file icon is changing into a cancel and amend button. And you can cancel, of course, a flight or change anything in the flight form, departure time, persons on board, fuel on board, anything you need to change without departure and destination, of course, and then amend the flight. Practice is, or best practice is, when changing the departure time, trying to file the flight plan to the earliest possible departure time and move the flight backwards if required. The reason is that in case of bringing a flight forward, the Eurocontrol system will cancel the old plan and generate a new, earlier one. That means, so today there are not that many calculated takeoff time messages, but when the airlines are ramping up and more flights are proceeded each day again, so that CTOT messages will come again back to us. And in case you are bringing the flight forward, you will lose your existing CTOT slot. So because it's a new flight, you will receive a complete new calculated takeoff time, and that could happen that you get the time what is worse than before. So on that reason, try to file as early as possible and move the flight backwards if necessary. Okay, in the flight section, we can see now our documents. You can see the flight plan form, the briefing document, and the navlog. And you can see also that in the name you have the distance or the route, departure, destination, and also the time when that document was generated. So now we are in the morning of the flight. We want to depart today. We start with the weather briefing. So we send that flight to the map to use the built-in weather features we have in the ForeFlight mobile app. So we start with a radar composite layer, and you can see the radar satellite pictures are real weather information, not forecasted weather information. So that means you can always look backward with these information layers. What is new in the ForeFlight mobile app is that we have added the legends to the bottom of the screen so that you can easy see and check what that color means. But of course, if it is too much information to you, if you want to switch that off, you can switch the legends off using the setting icon on top of the screen, the gear icon. So the next is the color satellite picture. Here we can see the temperatures and also the legend. So all the legends are covering the worldwide temperature range. That means anywhere of the on the world at that moment it's minus 72 degrees, and in other places it's plus 47 degrees. So and it's the legend does not reflect the picture you have selected in your map. So for IFR flying, very important, icing. So we have in icing in turbulence, we have an altitude slider on the right of the screen. You can select the planned altitude or check other altitudes for icing information. And using the timeline on the bottom of the screen, you can also check how the icing layer in that specific flight level is changing over the next 24 hours so that you can find the good departure time for for a nice flight without any icing. The same works for turbulence. Also here, we select your altitude for the flight and check if there are other options for a level with less turbulence. So when icing and turbulence are already in the ForeFlight mobile app since many years, so new introduced is a cloud layer. So you can also check the cloud layers and look for the tops of the clouds. And have also here you have the chance to check if there are few scattered, broken, or overcasted weather conditions or cloud conditions, and also that information is available for the next 24 hours. Yeah, finally, AirMet SIGMATs. That is the weather information depicted in the map. You can select an area and see what weather information, weather is on that specific region forecasted. New introduced are the layers for wind and temperature. Although these information are available worldwide, you can select your layer and see over the next 24 hours how the wind and temperature or the wind and the speed are changing in that specific layer. Also here we have the legends based on the worldwide weather phenomena at that specific time. Okay, what is also available? We have now the wide overview over the weather in that region we overfly during that specific flight. In the profile view, you can now also add not only airspaces, you can also, as a Performance Plus customer, see your icing information en route or your turbulence information en route or cloud information en route. All these weather information are four-dimensional. That means we are not only providing the weather, forecasted weather along your planned route. You can also see the weather forecasted for the departure time on the left side of the profile view and the weather forecasted for the arrival time on the right side of the profile view. Going back to the edit window, and also in the performance plan, you have now the option of an 3D review or preview of your planned flight. You have the flight plan on the top right on the screen. You can scroll through the route and select waypoints. And you can look around. How does it look like? What is there? And that information on the top left, you can also see what is the time and the altitude. And you can also now switch on weather information in 3D view so that you can check is there any icing here or is turbulence available. We can see, yeah, there are some turbulences en route. Please go forward to that specific segment and you can see we are in the middle of the turbulence layer, also in the cloud layer. And on the right, on the altitude slider on the right side, you can see we are always seeing the route altitude, but you can also manually checking for different levels and how it looks there. The top left information field shows the conditions, so broken clouds in that example. And yeah, so you can review your flight and you can also fly through your complete route, including the selected procedures to check, to prepare yourself for your flight. Okay. Last thing, after the weather information, we are checking NOTAM information. We have seen a lot of written text NOTAMs in the briefing package. What we can also enable the NOTAM, graphical NOTAM layer in the map view, and you see a lot of active areas. You simply select an area to see the restricted area and if it's active and in which altitude band it's active. So as we are flying here in flight level 240, everything is fine. In lower levels, the route generation would be impacted by that specific restricted area, for example. Now let's get started. So in flight, we have also different nice tools. For example, the dynamic nav log. The dynamic nav log shows is showing the route segments, the waypoints, and you can see on the green dots. So at least for that time, there are VFR conditions at that specific waypoints. You can see the headings, the total, and the parallax numbers. And when in flight, the remaining and the estimated time of arrival are filled up automatically based on your ground speed. When selecting the arrow between two waypoints, you can simple select, I want to fly that leg, or you can fly directly to that waypoint. The difference is if you fly if you select fly the leg between that two waypoints, the rest of the route will remain in your flight planning. If you fly directly, you generate a new leg from your current position to the next waypoint, and already flown segments are removed from the route. So I personally select always fly leg to see other waypoints still on the route, so makes it easier for me. The dynamic nav log has also the advantage that you can easily give position reports when flying in specific regions where you have to provide position reports, like oceanic clearances or oceanic position reports. It's quite simple to read the table top down to give your exact position report ATC expects from you. When you have a nice fancy avionics like an Evidine IFD system, a Garmin system equipped with a flight stream Bluetooth device, or a Dynan Skyview HX system, you can also send your flight plan to your panel. And vice versa. So when you change waypoints in your avionics and fly in direct automatically, if you like, that change will be resynchronized to your iPad so that you have always the same information on all devices. The sending to flight plan, that is a message you get, is also available with a send to. I can simply select the panel icon. If you're flying with more pilots and all pilots are using ForeFlight, you can see the crewmate's iPad also on the list, and you can send that flight plan automatically to his iPad, or if he sends the route to you, you can also get it. You can receive the message, and with a view route, the route will automatically put into the flight plan window. Now for the next preparation for the flight, we need our approach and procedure plates sorted. We send that flight to the plates tab, and automatically a binder is created with your departure and destination airport. It's recommended to add another flight binder for your flight from your destination to your alternate airport. So especially when having an IFR airport as a destination, you can very simply select already the departure plates for the alternate flight. So tap on close to close the binder view, and then you have the whole iPad available for your plates view. We see here's already an NOTAM active. We tap on the NOTAM and we see, okay, that specific aircraft stands are closed in that time. When tapping on airport, you see all available airport charts from Jeppesen, and of course as well the government charts provided by Eurocontrol, and you can view charts, and when tapping the checkbox, add that chart to the list. Switching between the charts is possible using the three-finger gesture on the iPad. So we have the departure now, and you can see the instrument line on the bottom of the screen. If you want to hide the instrument line, simply tap on the chart to enlarge it and hide the instrument line on the bottom of the screen. For emergency return, you can also select an approach for the departure airport to have that available immediately. And using the annotate icon, you can also make own notes on the plate. These notes are also visible when sending that plate to the map. As it's in VFR waypoint as destination, you can also select here, in that case, the Botlang, the VFR procedure charts provided by Jeppesen. These are optional approach plates, or the DFS visual approach chart. Also, DFS visual approach charts are an optional add-on to the ForeFlight subscription and has to be purchased separately. But don't hesitate if you don't have an approach plate for VFR airports. All the information are already included in the VFR part of the aeronautical map layer, and you can see the traffic pattern and the traffic pattern altitude, and also the information of that airport in the map. Okay, and finally the airport diagram. Now the flight is ready for departure. As I already said, I want to show you another example here, a flight from Stansted in UK to Poland in an Cessna 510 Mustang. We select another airport as an alternate, generate a route for that flight, add persons on board, some cargo, so that we have now a nice weight, a rump weight of 8,364 pounds for that flight. With the optional available runway analysis, you can now also do your takeoff and landing performance calculation for your jet aircraft. So including the obstacle analysis and engine out procedures. Here in that case, we have only straight out as engine out procedure. For other airports, for example, Innsbruck in Austria, you have also Jeppesen engine out procedures available. If you want to add additional departure obstacles, you can also do it here. Same for landing. Here, the terminal area forecast had no wind information, so we select the runway manually. You can also set your landing configuration. If you want to have anti-ice on or off, and if the anti-skid is operative or not. You can see also your speeds already. And we do the same for our alternate airport. On the top right of the screen, you have now the summary icon. And that opens a form including all your runway analyzers for that specific flight. You can see the takeoff and landing summary, then detailed takeoff analysis and landing analysis for departure, destination, and the alternate airport. We send that document also to the flight files. And now we have the runway analysis for that flight available in the flight. In case of a ramp check, we have that information available. So as you can see, I've done a lot with documents, and so you can connect the ForeFlight mobile app with a Dropbox and Box or Amazon S3 account, and given that connection a specific catalog name in your ForeFlight mobile app. Automatically a subfolder in apps will be created on your Dropbox account that's called ForeFlight. And here I put in manuals for my aircraft and a general aviation report template form. When you have connected your Dropbox with ForeFlight, automatically that form is synchronized to your ForeFlight mobile app and all your devices. Not only on one device, on all 3 devices, you can connect to your Pro Plus or Performance Plus account, and you can tap on the form, you can work with it and send it also to the flight documents. We are starting from Stansted, so we need to fill out that general aviation form. You can copy the template here already to several flights if required. Okay. Going back to the flights document files, we can see the template here. And now you can change the template, set it for departure, change the airport name, fill out the specific required personal information of your crew, and then you can from here send an email to the required address to send your to make that message available to the government. Okay. So also that flight is sent to the map, and we got some new features. It's a taxi route editor. So the taxi route editor is not available by default. You have to enable it under account. And what we have introduced is a section called ForeFlight Labs. That means that is a new introduced feature, and we are happy to hear your feedback. And so you can enable here features which are available for your specific subscription plan. So taxi routes are available for Performance Plus plans and can be switched on here. How does it work? After enabling a taxi route, you can see an additional icon in the FPL window, but you can also edit the taxi route when selecting departure, destination, airport bubbles in the route string. That opens the taxi route editor, and when you are on an airport, the route editor is automatically detecting your current position and offer that position as your start for the taxi route. But you can also select manually a start for the taxi route. Then when you add the runway or the destination where you want to taxi, the route editor is automatically generating a taxi route, and the keyboard, the taxi keyboard below the route is providing all taxiway information that you can, when writing down your taxi clearance, simply changing that route depending on your real taxi clearance. So here, for example, I remove runway 04. It's a very short taxi route. Then we add runway 22, and we can see here, we have to cross the runway, the active runway. So, and then we now get our taxi clearance. You can see all the taxiways on our route are in hell blue, light blue, and all other taxi ways and waypoints are in dark blue. And you tap on it, edit, hold short, and everything is then coming in red. So give you the alert. Be sure that you are really holding short on that runway, and then you can add the other waypoints. Okay, when changing to the charts view, we see that the taxi route will also become available on the airport plate in your flight binder. Feedback can be provided via the feedback button that opens your mail window, and then you can send your feedback to our team. And yeah, we are happy to hear from you. Yeah, other than in the US, Europe does not provide in-flight weather information, but fortunately they are very nice and good engineers. And so engineer Sebastian Golze has developed the ADL in-flight weather device. The ADL devices provide in-flight weather information. And some of the boxes provide optional ADS-B traffic and HRS information and optional LTE connections. So how can you use that application? So to open the flight window, copy the flight plan to the clipboard. Then you can open the ADL Connect app, and automatically the flight plan will be imported to the ADL app. Then you start your weather download in the app, and you can switch back to your ForeFlight mobile app to receive the in-flight weather via that ADL device in your ForeFlight mobile app. Okay. Next information, in-flight traffic beside the ADL device, the ADL 190 and ADL 200 have ADS-B weather traffic information. Also other devices are supported. On the left side, you can see from Air Avionics the AT1, a combined FLAM ADS-B traffic receiver. And on the right side, the U Avionics Sky Echo 2, a combined FLAM ADS-B receiver. And ForeFlight provides now in Europe the ForeFlight Sentry. The ForeFlight Sentry provides in-flight ADS-B traffic information from ADS-B out-equipped aircraft like the other devices. The Sentry provides a vast GPS information from at least 3 independent GPS providers parallel. The Sentry provides IHRS for backup attitude in synthetic vision, a barometric pressure sensor, and a carbon monoxide sensor and alarm system for added flight safety. How does it look like? When connected to the traffic receiver, you can see the traffic targets. When tapping on them, you can see the information from them. When traffic comes close, the color is changing, and you get also alarms when the traffic is coming too close to you. So we made it exactly on the point, 1 hour, and start with answering some questions. Here, a question from Jean. When filing IFR flight plans, some IFR routes are refused by ForeFlight as not being possible, whereas these same routes are accepted by Eurocontrol when using other providers. As I said, the aircraft setup is extremely important for getting proper routes. So please check that the aircraft profile is exactly the same and the ICAO configuration is the same. And also, of course, departure time, selected altitude bands, and so on. So, and sometimes it's these are small changes. So at least we are checking all routes against Eurocontrol before providing them to you. And so that could be a reason if in case you have very large discrepancies between different route systems, please send us an email and we will check. We will dive in and check what could be the reason. Okay, thank you, Nigel. For European presentations, recommend that you show kilos rather than pounds. It's just a suggestion. Yes, okay. We had that in our VFR part last time. Yep. Okay. Are Jeppesen charts included in the Pro subscription? Jeppesen charts are always an optional add-on. So what you have included in the ForeFlight, in all ForeFlight subscription plans, is everything you can get for free from Eurocontrol. So all government charts are included, all free available government charts are included in the ForeFlight mobile app. Jeppesen charts are available as an optional add-on. As I explained in the beginning, you can use a Jeppesen subscription from your Jeppesen MFD plan of your avionics, or you can purchase Jeppesen charts optional to your ForeFlight subscription plan, to all subscription plans. And the main difference in usability is that each installation of a coverage from an Jeppesen plan via your Jeppesen MFD subscription takes 1 seat. When you're purchasing your Jeppesen charts via ForeFlight, you can use all the charts parallel on all of your 3 of your devices. Does ForeFlight plan to add a direct access to French weather chart as provided by Meteo France? Yeah, so in that case, Thomas, please send an email to team@foreflight.com. We appreciate the suggestion, and the team will take a look and check what we can do. So yeah, so we are talking to several national weather providers. Mainly, we are talking to global weather providers, but of course, we can. Yeah, yeah, okay. Sorry, forgot the rest. I was already reading the next question. Sorry for that. How can we print takeoff landing distance details? So printing this takeoff distance landing details is in a summary of the runway analysis for the jets. Yeah, for if you so you can check them directly before the flight in the app. So usually you do the rate takeoff landing calculation immediately for the flight, so that at the moment we don't add them to the navlog, as a navlog is usually generated a little bit earlier, and the takeoff landing performance is generated in real time when you start your flight. Yeah, but also here, if you have a suggestion, if you have a feature request, please drop an email to team@foreflight.com. So we are now 10 minutes over. Thank you for watching the webinar. And yeah, so all the information can also be found in the pilot's guide. You can see our videos on foreflight.com/videos. Drop an email to team@foreflight.com, or you can review that webinar after uploading to foreflight.com/onfrequency. Thank you for joining this evening, and have a good evening. Bye.